Take it away, Aaron.
Out front next, the breaking news. Police just arriving at Nancy Guthrie's home just now. Police activity there increasing in just the past couple of moments here as we are getting in new details about her whereabouts in the hours just before she vanished and who was the last person known to have seen her. And a local Tucson anchor who saw the possible ransom note for Nancy Guthrie is out front. Police tonight say they're absolutely not dismissing the note. So what's in it? And the outrageous Epstein redactions. Why is the identity of the person who wrote to Epstein, quote, "Your littlest girl was a little naughty," being shielded from the public? Let's go out front. And good evening, I'm Erin Burnett. And out front tonight, we begin with breaking news. There has been a sudden increase of police just now outside the home belonging to Savannah Guthrie's mother in Tucson, Arizona. They showed up just a few moments ago. Crime scene tape is now seen outside the house. You can see this video just coming in from our Ed Lavandera on the ground, and you see that yellow tape. He's saying that they can see that now just going up. This major police presence coming as there is new information about hours leading up to the mysterious disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. Multiple news organizations are reporting now that Nancy had dinner at her daughter's home in Tucson before she returned to her home Saturday night. And the search is now in its fourth day. Investigators say they are absolutely not dismissing these possible ransom notes either.
When the note comes to us, it's like any piece of evidence. You give it to us. You give us a lead. We're going to look at every aspect of that lead and work it as a lead.
So you're not dismissing this note at this point.
Not.
It is potentially credible.
Now, the notes that we're talking about were sent to at least 3 different media outlets, including TMZ and 2 stations in Tucson. Now, the notes were demanding millions of dollars in Bitcoin for Nancy Guthrie's safe return. Now, in a moment, I'm going to speak to an anchor from one of the stations that received a purported ransom note. She has seen the exact contents of the letter. Now, investigators have not yet confirmed, though, whether the 3 similar notes are legitimate or not. And today, the Pima Sheriff's Department released a statement that reads in part, "At this point, investigators have not identified a suspect or person of interest in this case. Detectives continue to speak with anyone who may have had contact with Mrs. Guthrie." A person close to the investigation is now telling the Associated Press that there are signs of forced entry at the home, as we are getting a more detailed timeline of what the events were that happened in leading up to Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. She was last seen, we understand, around 9:30 p.m. local time on Sunday. That's when family members dropped her off for dinner, after dinner, I'm sorry. By 2 a.m. on Sunday, though, this is a crucial data point we now have. That is when her pacemaker sent its last known signal to her iPhone. Now, her iPhone was later found at her home. On Sunday morning around 11 a.m., her relatives went to her home to look for her because they heard she wasn't at church. And it was Sunday at noon then when 911 got the call. Ed Lavandera is out front live in Tucson, Arizona. And Ed, you're back in front of Nancy Guthrie's house. I know right in front of that crime scene tape that you were just showing us a moment ago from your shot. So what are you seeing and learning there right now? What's happening?
Well, it's all unfolding just here in the last few moments, as you mentioned. But the crime scene tape went up just a short while ago across the entire length of the property here. One of the law enforcement vehicles with gear, presumably for evidence collection and that sort of thing. So there we see 2 officers here. We've seen another couple of officers walking around the backside of the house. Now, what has prompted this, we don't exactly know at this moment, but it is significant because shortly after on Sunday, when the search was concluding, officers here and investigators had said that they had completed most of the work that they needed to be done inside the house in this investigation. We're now 4 days into this, and Nancy Guthrie still has not been found. A lot of questions about what kind of information and evidence has been dug up in the last 4 days, as investigators here have been calling for tips to come in. So this seems like a rather significant development as investigators are coming back out here to the home, presumably to continue and perhaps either redo some of the work or try to maybe find something that might have been missed here on Sunday when investigators descended on this neighborhood where Nancy Guthrie lives. But we can, you can kind of see here around this vehicle vehicle where the crime scene tape extends well past the length of the property here. So this is a situation, Aaron, unfolding as we speak here this afternoon. And all of this kind of unfolding too, as well as there has been so little clarity as to what has happened with Nancy Grace, and some real questions about just how much information investigators have at this moment.
So, Ed, I know this all just really is unfolding sort of as we're speaking. Last night at this very time, right, there was that helicopter that was going over, which, for some sort of search or reconnaissance that they were doing. But when you're talking about them now coming back to the house, what have you noticed that's different as you've been coming and going all through the day? I mean, do you have any sense of how many of them there are, or where around the house they are, or, anything that you've been able to see yourself?
Yeah, and it's very difficult to see, as we've reported throughout most of the week. Seeing in the line of sight in this neighborhood is very minimal, because it is, the houses are spread apart. They're set back deep onto these properties. There's a lot of, the desert foliage, the cactus, and everything that you see. So it's very difficult to get a good, clear view as to what's happening on the property. But we do know that there are a couple of agents or officers that we've seen on the backside of the property. It's hard for us to get a vantage point to know exactly what they're doing or what they might be looking for, but it is significant, because yesterday we also saw similar activity with a Sheriff's Department helicopter making several passes over about a 30-minute time period, very low level, just flying back and forth across not just the property here, but in the surrounding area. And they continued to do that investigative work. So clearly here in the last couple of days, with the lack of information, with the lack of clues that these investigators appear to be getting, perhaps this is a return to the scene, to the crime scene, to try to see if there's might be some sort of clue, some sort of a tip that might have been missed, something else, fresher eyes. Who knows exactly what they might find on these the pass through here once again, but clearly this is very different. In our entire time, we're now 4 days into this, we have not seen crime scene tape here back at this house.
No, and I think that's very significant as well. Just sitting here with John Miller, curious, you're talking about how it was the sheriff's helicopter last night. Do you know, in terms of the agents that are there, do you have any, I don't know if you were able to see anything on their vests or anything as to whether they're FBI or local sheriff, or is it unclear?
I've seen one of the officers has sheriff labeling on. The two officers that were in the back, actually we see a few more of them. There actually see like 3 or 4 of them now, but I cannot make out in the shadows there. I cannot make out from my vantage point any lettering on the uniforms or the gear that they're wearing there, but you can kind of see there on the back side of the house the officers. I'm not sure if I can't make it out, Aaron, to be honest with you. So they're kind of under the tree there in the shadows. Makes it very difficult to see, but clearly activity. And actually I see some more people even deeper into the property as well. So there is a contingent of law enforcement officers here at the scene, really kind of focused on the back part of the house.
All right, Ed, thank you very much. And as you see more, of course, we're going to bring Ed back in. You're looking at the picture there live right on the side of Nancy Guthrie's home. You can see kind of the bodies moving. Ed saying at least one of them was from the Sheriff's Department. Unclear, though, where those other agents are from. But I think from what Ed said, you could definitely see 3 or 4 of them even there. But we can see them moving. We're going to keep this just up for a second here. We're going to be joined now by Mary Coleman, anchor for KOLD 13 News in Tucson. Now, that is a station that received one of the alleged ransom notes tied to Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. And Mary, I'm really grateful for your being willing to talk to us. And we're looking at these live pictures. I know that you are also seeing live pictures as well on your feeds at News 13. So before we get to the note, this major law enforcement presence that we're seeing, multiple units, federal agents may be involved. Ed talking about seeing someone from the sheriff's office as well. What are you learning from your team on the ground and from what you're seeing?
Sure. Yeah, well, we have confirmed that the Pima County Sheriff's Department does have deputies, that federal agents are involved. We recently learned this information with our reporter and our crews there. And I actually texted the sheriff. I was curious if he could offer some insight, and he texted me back just a few minutes ago, and he said that they are just doing follow-up and didn't elaborate much further on what that follow-up is. So, of course, our crews are there. I know your crews are there. Everyone trying to figure out what their presence is that's going on. We know there was a canine as well. But again, we have confirmed that feds are involved. We did see some men in camo gear, not quite sure who they're with, but working to find out the same information that you all are trying to find out.
Well, very significant, as you said, the sheriff just texting you back, though, moments ago and characterizing this as follow-up. I mean, to understand what that means, obviously we don't know, but a lot of information. So, Mary, of course, as we're talking here, please interrupt and share more information as you get it, as I know you're breaking so much of this. I wanted to ask you about this alleged ransom note, though, as well. And I know that KOLD hasn't reported the exact contents, but you, Mary, have personally seen it yourself. What can you share?
I haven't. I think a lot of people were questioning the legitimacy of it, and while they're still looking into the legitimacy of it, they're taking all tips into consideration. We do know there are a few things that we can share as far as what the contents were. A lot of it is information that only someone who is holding her for ransom would know, some very sensitive information and things that people who weren't there when she was taken captive would know. So those are things that are concerning. We immediately sent that information over to the Sheriff's Department, and they're, of course, looking into the legitimacy of it. One of the detectives did get back to us and ask us for some more information so that they can start searching for an IP address and things of that nature to try and figure out who or what people are responsible here.
And you say an IP address, so obviously this came via email, right?
Correct, it did. It came into our newsroom via email.
So then who saw it first, and what did the station do? I mean, at what point did you all realize, wow, this, might not be a crank. This might be something.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it also included a dollar amount, a deadline, and again, other specifics that only Guthrie's abductor might know. So that definitely raised some red flags. And our news tips come in directly to the newsroom, and our digital team and other employees have access to that. So they were the ones who flagged it initially when it came in. And when we saw some of those details, it was clear after a couple of sentences that, this might not be a hoax. So, again, we immediately sent that over to Pima County Sheriff's Department, and they're still looking into it. And I did reach out to the sheriff earlier and ask him, hey, any news on this? Any news on the legitimacy of this alleged ransom note? And he said no updates right now that he's able to share with us.
And I know you mentioned there was a dollar amount in there. Was there, and I understand there was also a deadline. I mean, are you able to confirm, are we past the deadline that they had put in the note that you received at this point now, or not? The information is incredibly sensitive. I don't want to put too much of that out there as far as that information. But again, I can confirm that there was a deadline involved. So, there's also TMZ. It says they got a separate alleged ransom note, and that was demanding millions of dollars in cryptocurrency, right? And you're talking about a specific dollar amount. Now, they published parts of theirs online. Sure. They went and they checked the Bitcoin address that they say was in the letter that they got. They said that that's real. I obviously, Mary, you've had a chance to compare what TMZ posted to what you received. Do you think it's the same letter, or have you noticed differences between the two?
Yeah, there are certainly many similarities between the two letters. Again, I didn't see exactly, they didn't post word for word what they're said, just, a couple of here and there words. But from what they did pull, it does seem like we are sharing similar letters from, I don't know if it's the same person again, but the letters do look similar, yes.
So obviously, when you get this via email, I mean, that gives a lot of information potentially, right, to law enforcement.
Sure.
Mary, do you believe at this point, from talking to the sheriff, from federal law enforcement, and obviously you have so many crews on the ground, so many sources, do you believe that police at this point actually do know a lot more than they're telling us publicly?
I would say that there's definitely some additional information that they're withholding. As I mentioned, a lot of it I feel like they believe is going to compromise this investigation. So they're holding it close to them to ensure that we get Nancy home safely. And I think that's the goal all around. People want to know where she is, and there's lots of interest in this case. And, all eyes are on the sheriff's department. So I think they're treading lightly with what they're releasing, and they're aware that people want that information.
All right, Mary, I really appreciate your taking the time and sharing everything that you can. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right. Mary Coleman, as I said, is an anchor at KOLD 13 News in Tucson, and she has seen the alleged ransom note that the station received. So you heard her talking about that. John Miller and Wallace Zions are here. So what do you make, John, of what she said?
Well, I think the sheriff was clear that they're treating it as real, because until you can eliminate the fact, until you can say this is definitely a hoax, treating it as real investigatively is the right thing to do. The remarkable thing that Mary tells us is there's sensitive information in there that only someone on the scene would have known, which means as a local reporter with local sources who probably had a good deal of information about the scene, there's things in there that she hadn't seen reported that authorities looked at and said,
oh, this is true. So that's why she feels, I mean, she clearly feels, Wally, that it could be legitimate, right? I mean, that it's very possible from what she's saying. But that's an interesting point, that she would have sources that would know things about the crime scene.
Right.
And then she would be able to compare that to the note and say, oh, those things line up.
She's a local. I'm sure there's been some good stories that were done on Nancy's residence or what she does. She's in a book club. She spends a lot of time within the community. But also the fact that you take everything that you receive and go with it until you can disprove it. And that letter has certain things that are very prominent to things that no one else knows. And also, with expanding the crime scene, that's a very interesting thing, because somewhere along the line, they either got a new tip that something is out there. I know they're using some of their rescue dogs, their bloodhounds.
Yeah, she mentioned a canine as well.
They're setting up scent packages where they take an item of Nancy's and they enhance it and give it to the bloodhounds, and then they go out and they try to track them and see if they can find anything. And apparently there must be some information out there that they are looking for.
Okay, and I guess lots of things can be true at the same time. They may know a lot more than they're saying. They may still not know enough, right? All these things can be true, John. But what Mary's saying is, all this police activity that Ed's reporting on is that the sheriff is saying that this is follow-up. Now, obviously, that's the sheriff. There could also be federal agents there, and, unclear the extent to which one and the others. But what does that mean? This is the first time that we've actually seen crime scene tape up.
well, I think the first focus was processing the inside of that house. In the early days, there was a search that went on literally through that night into the next day, helicopters, drones, ATVs, covering that ground. But this is completely normal, which is now they've got a command post, they have additional resources, they have a lot of new thinking in there. They've done the kind of search and rescue version that you would do down and dirty with all the resources you could throw at it, and they did. Now somebody's saying, have we tried this piece of technology? Who has that? Can we get it up here? Have we tried a different kind of dog? Have we tried a different kind of scent package with something beyond a piece of clothing that we may have just shared the first day? So this is them, literally covering the bases, and they will go back to that command post tomorrow, and they'll say, who has a new and different idea? When do we want to go back and try that?
And these are live images, I believe. This is actually coming from KOLD outside the home of just activity there outside the home. Wally, what does it say to you that, when Ed is showing that yellow crime scene tape, that's the first time that they're putting that up?
Well, it tells me that they're expanding the crime scene. They're making sure that they're covering every base. They might have had some sort of lead that was sent to them, and they want to expand it. Crime scenes, whenever you get a homicide or any type of high-profile case where you have crime scene respond, you always have to expand the crime scene because there's always something that leads to it. For example, in New York City, if you have a shooting and the bullet went through the flooring to the floor below, you're going to extend that crime scene and canvass everything. And that's what they're doing now. They're extending, canvassing, and looking for more evidence, or they have certain evidence that they have and they want to see if it matches to what they're hearing.
So, John, if the ransom notes end up being real and they are somehow negotiating or in contact in some sort of a hostage negotiating sense, if that's happening and they're doing that, why would they also be doing this at the same time?
On to something else who would know the house well. And then when I say concentric circles, it would be looking at not just those people, but circles around those people who might have a record for violent crime, who might have seen this as a potential way. So that's going on. The ransom note is being examined as a real lead because of the kind of information in it. And, you know, they're also looking right now in this search for other kinds of physical evidence. Yeah. They're not stopping any one of these things to prioritize another. They're doing it all simultaneously. Well, in a you don't know which one's going to pan out.
And you were talking about the concentric circles last night and people who may have had access to the home. But in a situation, if you believe the letter is real, at what point would they, and you would imagine someone like Savannah Guthrie, right? She wants her mother home. She desperately wants her mother home. She has financial resources. At what point do they say mother needs the medication? Well, does the family say, we want, let's do this. We want her home?
Well, keep in mind one thing. In a situation like that, the hostage taker or the kidnappers, they're going to make demands. And they're going to talk to a family member. And what happens in a case like that is the FBI, for an example, say they'll give a hostage negotiator. You have to be able to have a tactical plan all ready. For an example, they may want a family member has to be comfortable with the coach. That hostage negotiator is going to be a coach to that individual. They have to be comfortable and they have to be able to accept whatever that coach tells them. And there's a simple process that we use, a 5-step process in cases like this, that we tell the person who is going to be the negotiator on our end. And the first thing is to develop what we call an active listener. Now, an active listener is not a listener, because a listener listens but says, oh, I got to go to the dentist at 4 o'clock. They have to be an active listener, listen to everything that individual is saying. The next part about is showing empathy to the individual, not feeling sorry for them. And the other part after that is going to develop a rapport. Yeah. And then there's 2 other steps.
And then, I guess we don't know whether those conversations are happening right now or not, and whether, whether they would actually result in her return. So many questions, but obviously we've got these live images up as we continue to cover this. Thank you both very much. And there are growing concerns. I just mentioned Diwali, Nancy Guthrie's health, right? We had been told that she needed medication within a day. So what does all that mean? And what does it mean that her pacemaker stopped syncing with her iPhone at 2 a.m. on Sunday morning? Plus, breaking news, President Trump, just in a new interview tonight, tripling down on his calls to nationalize U.S. elections, claiming that Democratic strongholds are, quote, extremely corrupt. Former Trump White House attorney Ty Cobb is out front, and an ICE attorney. Breaking news, we're looking at these live pictures of crime scene tape, which has just been put out outside the home of Savannah Guthrie's mother. Police activity just picking up in the past few moments around the home. So let's go back to Ed Lavandera on the ground. And Ed, now here in these past few moments, I know you've gotten some new information.
Well, we're getting a little bit more clarity on just the presence, the amount of law enforcement presence that is back out here at the house. In the last few moments, we saw close to a dozen different officers. It's hard to make out exactly what agencies they're with. Only a few of them had any kind of law enforcement agency markings on the clothing that they were wearing. But there was a group of them that appears to have gone back inside the house through the garage. We also saw another law enforcement officer here grabbing what appear to be evidence bags from the truck that you see behind me, presumably getting ready to go back in. So again, this is all very actively happening right now this afternoon as this unfolds here, and you can see, this is a number of one officer walking out again, it's hard to make out exactly what logos and what agency logos they have on their clothing from the distance that we're at here. But it was definitely, when we first got here, there was only a handful of officers that we could see, and then from the back of the house, close to a dozen of them emerged. So a rather significant presence here, going back through this house, presumably collecting more evidence or looking for anything that might have been missed throughout the initial search here at this home back on Sunday afternoon. Aaron?
All right, Ed, thank you. We'll be checking back in with you here over these next minutes as we see what you see with that activity going on as we speak here. As Ed is there, we've been learning that Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker stopped syncing with her iPhone and Apple Watch early Sunday morning around 2 a.m. The two devices were found inside her home, according to authorities. Now, the timestamp provides investigators, obviously, an initial time on when Savannah Guthrie's 84-year-old mother may have been abducted. Out front now is Dr. Jonathan Reiner. He is a former longtime cardiologist to Vice President Dick Cheney. Dr. Reiner, I appreciate your time. So, people have had so many questions with this, and of course, this is your area of incredible professional expertise. What does it say to you that Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker stopped syncing with her Apple devices on Sunday at 2 a.m.?
Well, maybe nothing. A pacemaker not only has the ability to create a heartbeat, trigger the heart to beat, but it's also a sophisticated monitor of the patient's heart rhythm. And a pacemaker is programmed to check in once a day, just to check in with its communication device, and then ultimately the app that monitors it once a day. Typically that's at night. So at 2 o'clock in the morning, that's all it might have been doing. The other possibility is that it actually might have detected an arrhythmia. And so, for instance, if a person was in a physical struggle, that might have created a rapid heartbeat, and at over a certain threshold, the pacemaker would have detected that and potentially reported it. But once the device is more than 5 to 20 feet or so away from the communication device, like a cell phone, it will no longer be in communication. So it's hard to know exactly what that means.
Right. So it would mean obviously that she's not there, right? So the not syncing itself does not necessarily mean anything, obviously, about the pacemaker itself.
No, but it does tell us that she was in close proximity to her cell phone at 2 o'clock in the morning. So it tells us that until that time, they were together.
And then you also mentioned something else, which is that if there had been a struggle, and we do understand that there was blood and she was abducted, right? They're treating it as a crime scene, so she was taken against her will, from everything that we've learned. You're saying that obviously, if you're talking about 5 to 15 feet, any sort of a struggle or change in heart would have been picked up by that pacemaker. That could be on there.
Above a certain heart rate, it would be possible that the pacemaker would detect that and then immediately upload that. Through its communication device. So we don't know whether this was just a routine check-in or whether it had detected an arrhythmia, but it's easy to know. All that needs to be done is to check with the implanting physician because that's where the data goes.
So, the other thing, of course, is in that time when she would have been moved from her bedroom, ostensibly her bed, to a distance away from the phone where it would no longer pick that up. We understand, right, that there had been blood that we don't know whose blood, that could be her blood, that she could have been injured as part of this abduction. I know that you believe that actually could be one of the most dangerous parts here.
Well, I mean, an 84-year-old is a very fragile person. Even a fairly robust person in their 80s is at risk of severe injury if they fall. I talk to my patients every week, older patients, about the risk of injury, and we talk about patient safety. So Mrs. Guthrie, if she lost her footing or was pushed to the ground or somehow fell, that could result in a severe injury. And of course, we don't know what medications she takes that could actually make an injury worse, things like a blood thinner.
Yeah, no, we don't know. I know that they had said there was, she needed her medications,
right.
And obviously life or death. All right. Thank you so very much, Dr. Reiner. Appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
And next, the breaking news. Trump just pressed on why his director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, was with FBI agents as they searched a Georgia elections office. Former White House attorney Ty Cobb is out front. And an ICE attorney sent to Minnesota, just removed from her post after telling a judge, as I said, her quote was, "This job sucks."
Eczema isn't easy to plan for, but with Ebglyss, people with moderate to severe eczema can have real results, like skin that's still more clear at 1 year.
Don't use if you're allergic to Ebglyss. Allergic reactions can occur that can be severe. Eye problems can occur. Tell your doctor if you have new or worsening eye problems. You should not receive a live vaccine when treated with Ebglyss. Before starting Ebglyss, tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection.
Ask your doctor about once monthly Ebglyss.
You've got a Pepto predicament, Ace. You overdid it on the loaded fries. Undo it with Pepto-Bismol.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
When you overdo it, undo it with Pepto-Bismol.
This is where we go
President Donald J. Trump has built a strong economy and is revitalizing the American dream. He will go down as the greatest housing president in history.
America was built one home at a time. I believe that. That's why institutions like Fannie Mae matter. Working with banks so lending continues, opportunities stay open, and families aren't locked out because their past wasn't perfect. When banks can say yes, families can move forward. Fannie Mae, protector of the American dream.
Your sisters are running early.
Early? This headache.
We've got an hour. Try Painquil.
The max strength liquid pain reliever that starts working fast. Painquil, the aches, pain, strains, head pounding, back aching, fights pain fast medicine.
Did you know about 1 in 3 people with plaque psoriasis may also develop psoriatic arthritis? With fewer symptoms from moderate to severe plaque psoriasis, where would you go? Imagine being 1,000,000 miles away. With Tremfya, clearer skin is possible. And for adults with active psoriatic arthritis, Tremfya goes beyond the skin. Less joint pain, stiffness, and swelling is possible. And Tremfya even reduced fatigue. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Imagine being 1,000,000 miles away. Ask your doctor about Tremfya.
Force Factor Hair Growth Accelerator promotes thicker, fuller, healthier hair in just 3 weeks. Hair Growth Accelerator contains a clinically studied key ingredient that quickly accelerates hair growth and reduces fine lines and wrinkles. Search Amazon now for Force Factor Hair Growth Accelerator.
I'm Miles Penn, founder of M-Tailor. Finding a pair of jeans that looks good and feels comfortable all day is such a hassle. So we created patented technology that measures you 20% more accurately than a tailor using just your phone's camera. And now we've invented the InvisiStretch waistband, designed to preserve the look of classic jeans while invisibly stretching for amazing comfort. Get custom jeans for just $79 right from your phone. Download the M-Tailor app on iOS or Android. Most clothes use just 1 or 2 measurements, but M-Tailor's custom clothes use 7 or more measurements to give you a perfect fit. Getting measured takes less than 30 seconds, and M-Tailor offers free returns and free shipping. Whether you are so big or so small, we'll fit you all. Jeans, suits, shirts, and more. Shipped directly from our master tailors to you. Download the M-Tailor app on iOS or Android, or visit mtailor.com.
Breaking news, President Trump once again calling to nationalize U.S. elections while claiming 3 Democratic strongholds are, quote, extremely corrupt. Here he is moments ago.
There are some areas in our country that are extremely corrupt. They have very corrupt elections. Take a look at Detroit. Take a look at Philadelphia. Take a look at Atlanta. If we need to put in federal controls as opposed to state controls, remember this, they're really an agent. They're really accumulating the votes for who wins an election. If they can't do it honestly and it can't be done properly and timely, then something else has to happen.
Out front now, Ty Cobb, former Trump White House lawyer. So, Ty, Trump has said repeatedly that he wants to nationalize elections. You just said it again there. I mean, earlier today, the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, said, oh, you know, he was not really nationalizing. He was referring to, legislation that would require people to prove they're U.S. citizens when they register to vote. And that's what it's about. But he keeps talking about it explicitly. What do you think this is about?
Well, I think this is about precisely what he said, nationalizing the elections. He wants control. He doesn't have control because the Constitution makes clear that elections and the manner in which they're conducted, and the rules that apply and the way that votes are counted and reported are all within the state province. They have nothing to do with the federal government. So
the brother of the Emirati president paid $500 million for a 49% stake in Trump's family crypto venture. So $500 million for that stake. Then, of course, Trump is formally inaugurated, and the United States then agrees to give the Emirates its most advanced AI chips, which, of course, is a matter of intense national security. You told the Wall Street Journal, when they were reporting on this really important story, that this sort of thing, quote, taints American foreign policy. That was your quote. So then this weekend, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche was asked about your criticism, and I wanted to play for you, Ty, what he said.
I could have predicted what you just said he would say. That's what he says every time anything comes out about the president. I don't have the president is ethical. The fact that Ty Cobb claims that he would have counseled something different to the president, okay. I mean, that guy, I don't have a response to that.
Okay. I mean, that guy, I don't have a response to that. What's your response to him, that just sort of dismissing it like that?
Well, I will say that, the one thing I'm confident of is that I'm the least newsworthy thing that he could have said. And it was just, he resorted to attacking me just because what he really couldn't respond to was how in the world could he describe what Trump did as ethical? I mean, I spent a career in the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act world, traveling the world on bribery and corruption, and I've never seen it at a scale like the one that we're now encountering with Trump. The $480 million plane from Qatar, this transaction in the UAE, the host of things that he's doing to loot the country and to shake down the world. It's astonishing, and no wonder Todd Blanche can't defend it.
Right. And he didn't actually try to, right? He just actually pivoted from the president as ethical to taking you down personally in that pejorative way. Ty Cobb, thank you very much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you, Aaron.
All right. And next, we are continuing to follow this breaking news out of Arizona and this sudden heavy police presence outside Nancy Guthrie's home. Plus, Paul Reichoff and Gretchen Carlson are standing by in our green room. A lot to break down tonight, including Trump immigration agents, Trump admitting that they have gone too far.